So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means so many new reasons to rack.
Because I always find something amazing.
Just so many good brands.
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Picture this. A curve in the road. A change in plans. Well, what do you say? With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer's always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to performance. Yes to comfort. Yes to right now. Because saying yes without hesitation, that's real luxury. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
This is Addiction Medicine Journal Club. I'm Dr. John Keenan.
And I'm Dr. Sonya del Tredici.
We believe that addiction is a disease that can be treated, and we want to help you stay up to date on the latest research that you can use in your addiction medicine practice. The podcast offers Category 1 CME through MyCares at Michigan State University. The links to the CME are in the show notes. This week, we're going to be discussing the second half of our PSAM talk, which is 4 additional articles that changed our practice.
All right. You ready to dive into these next 4 articles, John?
Yep. Yeah. Let's go. It's 9:45 at night and we're going to go strong. I'm 40 years old and I drink caffeine after 8 p.m. So this is going to be night.
I don't know. Should we? I guess there's no point in pretending it's anything but what it is. Just late night party.
I did take a test on Monday and I drank a Red Bull after dinner because I was going to be up late to do that. And that was like the dumbest move at my age I think I could have ever done. It was like 2:30 in the morning. I felt like I was wired, just like staring at the ceiling.
Yeah. It's herbal tea for you from now on.
All right. What's case 5?
All right. So, case 5, we've got a patient, a 49-year-old man with opioid use disorder, stable on buprenorphine for about 10 months after a 3-year battle with what was an over-the-counter product called tianeptine. That's a gas station medication you can get that's, technically over-the-counter, but very addictive. He also has anxiety, adult ADHD, PTSD, bipolar disorder, and he's struggling with alcohol use as well. He's drinking more than he plans to, driving under the influence despite having previous DUIs, engaging in risky sexual behavior, having conflict with his family, conflict with his job. And he really wants to stop drinking. So he asked for medication to help him stop drinking. And he also smokes tobacco. And relevant, he has never had alcohol withdrawal seizures or any other seizures. So, normally when someone asks me for medication for alcohol use disorder, I think naltrexone, but anyone on buprenorphine, naltrexone's out. So now what? Like topiramate, gabapentin, acamprosate, disulfiram? I don't know. A lot of options. So John, what do you start with when people want treatment for alcohol use disorder? What's your first line medication?
I mean, I think that, naltrexone definitely, but in these cases, I feel like I lean definitely into acamprosate, gabapentin. Sometimes disulfiram if there's like the stimulant use as well.
Yeah, I've been using a lot of topiramate as well recently. That has some pretty good evidence behind it. But nothing's like an obvious first line. It's kind of a bit trial and error. So I read this article that was new. It says efficacy and safety of varenicline and bupropion in combination and alone for alcohol use disorder, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, multi-center trial. All the adjectives. It was published in the Lancet Regional Health, 2025. The clinical question here is that in adults with moderate or severe alcohol use disorder and recent heavy use, does varenicline, 1 milligram twice a day was the dose they used, and bupropion, 150 milligrams twice a day, either alone or in combination, does that reduce alcohol consumption compared to placebo over 12 weeks? That's the whole clinical question. So this was a randomized 4-arm placebo-controlled trial. And it had adults who had moderate to severe alcohol use disorder. You had to be drinking currently. They had pretty high alcohol consumption during the 3 months prior to enrolling in this study, at least 2 heavy drinking days per week. And the people who were in this study, about 75% of their days were heavy drinking days on average. So pretty heavy alcohol users. Alcohol is confirmed by self-report and this BPEth blood level, which is phosphatidylethanol in blood. That's an alcohol metabolite, and it corresponds with alcohol use over the previous few days. They had to not be receiving other medication or treatment for alcohol use disorder, and no history of seizures, of course, because one of the interventions is bupropion, which can lower your seizure threshold. So they either got varenicline, 1 milligram twice a day, or bupropion, 1 milligram twice a day plus placebo, or varenicline plus placebo, or both drugs, varenicline plus bupropion, or neither drug, placebo plus placebo. So 4 arms. And the outcome was blood phosphatidylethanol level, which is an objective measure of alcohol consumption, and self-reported percentage of heavy drinking days. Secondary outcomes were grams of alcohol consumed, percent days abstinent, and alcohol cravings. And this was done over 12 weeks. So a real classic randomized controlled trial. The results were pretty good. Varenicline and bupropion and varenicline and placebo reduced alcohol consumption compared to placebo. So really the varenicline was the active ingredient here. The effect sizes were largest when you combine varenicline and bupropion. And if patients, of course, took all the medication as assigned. So like a per protocol analysis, that group did the best. The bupropion tended to attenuate the nausea you get from varenicline. So I'm not sure how much it did with the alcohol consumption, but it helped people tolerate the varenicline more. And if you looked at the primary outcome, which was the mean blood phosphatidylethanol level, the change was about 0.5, which corresponds to about 3 drinks a day. So going from an average 7.5 drinks a day to average 3 drinks a day. So that's pretty potent reduction in alcohol. And the heavy drinking days were reduced by about 40%. So they went from about 75% to about 35% of days were heavy drinking days. So again, pretty big effect in the primary and secondary outcomes. So again, case 5, we have our complex patient with opioid use disorder, multiple mental health diagnoses, drinking more than he wants to, and really wanting to stop alcohol. So now I definitely would offer him, or have offered him, varenicline and bupropion. It'll help reduce drinking. It doesn't have a lot of side effects. It's safe with buprenorphine. Maybe it'll help you quit smoking. So that's an exciting bonus. And the patient hasn't been on it very long, so I can't tell you about sort of long-term effect, but I'll be seeing him pretty soon and we'll see if it worked. You know, and the other thing I learned in this study, and I haven't done this yet, but I plan to, if someone wants to take varenicline for smoking cessation and they can't tolerate it because of nausea, I can add bupropion, and that might attenuate the nausea. And I'm really excited to do that for smoking cessation. So,
like
John, would you use this combo, do you think?
Yeah, I think I definitely would. I think, especially we talked about just sometimes kind of the lack of other options. I do feel like as we do this longer, I feel like we've got 12 drugs. We just keep throwing them at everything. I feel like Wellbutrin or bupropion's another one. It's like, it seems like it hits a lot of things. Varenicline as well. This is not the first trial that we've seen for varenicline for like another substance use and giving improvement. So kind of very interesting.
It's like semaglutide too. Like what other drugs do we use for like 14 different diagnoses that are in multiple body systems?
Yeah.
Valsartan?
Semaglutide is like the Michael Phelps of drugs, though. It's like they're all. It kind of is because it's the same. It's like it's like the 50-yard and the 70-yard and the 100-yard. It's like the same driver, right? It's like obesity. They're just driving all these things. It's not like they're adjusting sleep apnea or masled, or it's because it's the obesity.
Right. It's true.
All right. Speaking of semaglutide, so in case 6, you could
have nice segue.
32-year-old with a history of hypertension, hyperlipidemia, tobacco use disorder, obesity, and alcohol use disorder presents seeking help to reduce alcohol consumption. The patient reports smoking 1 pack of cigarettes daily and vaping intermittently throughout the day. They currently consume approximately 1 30-pack of light beer daily, having switched from liquor in an attempt to reduce harm. The patient has a remote history of pancreatitis, but denies any previous history of alcohol withdrawal seizures, delirium tremens, or other withdrawal-related complications. Their pause score is 2. They express concern about their ongoing alcohol use and recent weight gain, describing the development of a, quote, beer belly since transitioning from liquor to beer. So what I used to think is, we could absolutely help you cut back on the alcohol. If you're open to treatment, we could start with naltrexone and connect you with some behavioral health support. And if your drinking decreases, the weight should gradually improve over time. How about you, Sonya? What do you do for patients like this?
Yeah, I mean, naltrexone is sort of my go-to number one initial choice. Yeah, that's where I would start.
So then I kind of read this article, Once Weekly Semaglutide in Adults with Alcohol Use Disorder. It's a randomized clinical trial from JAMA Psychiatry from just this past year in 2025. And this is kind of like what everyone's been talking about. We finally have the trial. So the question here is, does the GLP-1 receptor agonist semaglutide reduce alcohol consumption and cravings in adults with alcohol use disorder? And so this was the phase 2 double-blind randomized parallel arm trial over 9 weeks at U.S. academic centers between September 2022 and February 2024. And it combined outpatient and laboratory assessments for alcohol use and the effects of placebo versus semaglutide on alcohol use. Participants here, it was a phase 2 trial, so it was only 48 non-treatment seeking adults meeting criteria for alcohol use disorder. So 48 out of 504 were screened to enroll here. They were aged 21 to 65. They met DSM-5 criteria. They typically were in the moderate alcohol use range. Most were overweight or obese with a mean BMI of 32.1. Kind of most were white, 80%. Interestingly here, 71% were female. That's a little bit higher than I think we see for a lot of these trials for alcohol use disorder. 27% smoked. And they were randomized to semaglutide with doses ranging from 0.25 to 1 milligram weekly or placebo. The outcomes, the primary outcome that they looked at was this laboratory alcohol self-administration test, which I thought was a really cool test. Basically, whatever your alcoholic beverage of choice, they would present with you. You could drink it at your comfort and at your own pace. And then they measured how much you drank during the period of the test, but also what your peak breath alcohol concentration was. So basically, how much did you drink to what level over what period of time. I wish there was an appendix that had like what everyone's drink of choice was. I think that would have been an interesting little kind of side note.
It's got to be somewhere.
Were people picking like good stuff, or was it,
Yingling?
Tall Boy Boots Farms? I don't know. Secondary outcomes were weekly alcohol consumption, heavy drinking days, alcohol cravings, cigarette use in smokers, and body weight. So the results here was that, the semaglutide did have a strong performance here. So it was associated with statistically significant reductions in alcohol consumption, peak breath alcohol concentration, drinks per drinking day, heavy drinking days, and alcohol cravings. Additional effects did show that there was a statistically significant reduction in cigarette use among smokers and also a statistically significant decrease in body weight. There was no significant effect on total drinks per day on average, abstinent days, A1C levels, blood pressure, or depression. And so it's interesting. I'm not sure if you've seen this in clinical practice, but I have noticed that for our state insurance was covering these for weight loss for the past year, and then they stopped abruptly January 1st. So no longer can these be prescribed for state. And I had prescribed a ton of this the past year, and the group that was smoking, they really picked their smoking up substantially as of January 1st off these medications. So I think it's interesting that they're also looking at for that. Not that you can take that away from this trial directly.
Oh yeah, I mean we're sort of running an experiment on the American people, starting and stopping the GLP-1 agonists. I think a lot of insurances have just decided they can't cover it; it's too expensive, and so a lot of people have stopped. And now I'm watching everybody kind of gain their weight back.
It's interesting. This is not related to this article, but I did see a slide the other day, and it was at the top 8 health insurance companies in the United States, and it was basically their financial report from the last year, so kind of fiscal year ending end of 2025. And interestingly, 6 of the 8 actually operated in a loss. And then the 2 in the green that actually operated with a profit, the profit margin was very small compared to normal. I think they're allowed up to 10% industry. Most of the time, most of the more equitable ones have about a 6% margin of profit off of collections. Even the two that were ahead, they were like 1 to 1.8%. So they were, everyone took a big loss, and these drugs were a big part of it. So I don't know, something's going to give here.
Well, I think even the manufacturers themselves have been caught off guard. Like, I think, I don't want to say it's wrong. I might be a little bit off, but I think it was Novo Nordisk had a patient assistance program. And if you could prove financial hardship and fill out the somewhat onerous paperwork, they actually were giving you the medication, as they do, in many cases. And I had a patient on that, and they just canceled the patient assistance program.
Yeah.
Just too many people. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. So yeah, tell us about what they found.
Interestingly, while we can certainly discuss traditional treatment options for alcohol use disorders, such as now naltrexone, acamprosate, kind of IOP, GOP, if you're a type 2 diabetic, we could talk about semaglutide off-label at this point in time for alcohol use disorder. It would help with kind of your weight, your diabetes, but also with your alcohol use, maybe even your tobacco use. And it's interesting, we talk about like the placebo and nocebo effect in medicine. Patients really, really, really love their GLP-1s, right? I feel like when you offer this to people, I feel like compared to like a statin or like something that has a long track record of safety and saving people's lives, people want to be on these medicines. So it's a very appealing treatment option for patients.
Yeah. And I mean, like we talked about with the last article, a lot of these medications for alcohol use disorder are not real slam dunks. They're all partially effective. They all reduce your heavy drinking days somewhat. This isn't like that much more effective than, just varenicline, bupropion, or less. I don't know if I'm not really sure what the head-to-head comparison would be, but there doesn't seem to be a dramatic difference. And, why not take semaglutide with all of its cardiovascular, renal, and weight benefits?
Yeah. Oftentimes, they're like statistically significant. They don't always seem clinically, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
All right. Ready for the next one?
Now let's talk about smoking.
All right. We talked about opioids. We talked about alcohol. Wait, did we talk about opioids? We talked about methamphetamine. We did. We talked about opioids. We talked about alcohol. We're talking about smoking. So this is case 7. A patient, 40-year-old woman, who works with you, perhaps as a recovery support specialist, stable on buprenorphine for opioid use disorder, and she has one remaining vice, and that is smoking tobacco. She's tried to quit using varenicline, bupropion, nicotine, vaping, not interested in smoking cessation counseling, and she asks what else she could try. And so all I could say is before, we could do another quit attempt with the same medication. We could do sort of off-label high dose 3 milligrams of varenicline or a double 42 milligrams of nicotine a day. But there's not like other new medications. So John, if someone has sort of tried everything and still wants to quit smoking, what do you offer them?
I say we try them again, right? I have a whole spiel about many quit attempts, like some data, some studies up to 25. I often just cycle back through. Just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean it's something you can't try again.
All right, just keep on trying. So this article was cytisinicline for smoking cessation, the ORCA phase 3 replication randomized clinical trial. It was published in JAMA Internal Medicine in 2025. So what is cytisinicline? For those of you who don't know, otherwise used to be known or is known as cytisine. It's an alkaloid, a plant-based alkaloid. The plant is the laburnum anagroides, a nicotine agonist-antagonist compound, kind of like varenicline. It's widely used in smoking cessation. It's not new. It's been used in Europe since 1964. It's approved in Canada, approved in the UK. And the traditional dosing, how it's usually sold, is like a very complicated 25-day taper, starting at a high dose and tapering down as you quit smoking. It's shown to be effective. Multiple trials have shown it to be effective, and sort of a meta-analysis showed that the relative risk is 1.74 compared to placebo for smoking cessation with minimal side effects. You can purchase it online, even though it's maybe not technically legal in the US. A 12-week course would be about $250. So the full course that was profiled in this study, you can purchase already, $250, shown to be effective in the ORCA 2 trial published in 2023. And this study was done to confirm those ORCA-2 results and support an FDA application. So they established this new dosing regimen. They gave it a new name, and the FDA did approve it. And it was FDA approved September 3rd, 2025. And the goal is to have it available in the U.S. for sale by the end of 2026. So stay tuned. A new medicine for smoking cessation. So with that introduction, let's talk about this study. The clinical question is, which is more effective for smoking cessation, cytisinicline for 6 weeks, cytisinicline for 12 weeks, or placebo? It was a randomized placebo-controlled trial, including adults who smoked at least 10 cigarettes a day and sought to quit, and they had biochemically verified smoking with expired carbon monoxide level greater than 10 parts per million, and they were in multiple clinical trial sites throughout the U.S. Mean age was 52, about half women, 80% white, with a mean smoking history of a pack a day for 13 years. So pretty good smokers. Most had multiple quit attempts, and about 40% had tried and not been successful with varenicline. So again, you either got the cytisinicline, 3 milligrams, 3 times a day for 12 weeks, or you got the cytisinicline 3 times a day for 6 weeks, followed by placebo for 6 weeks, or placebo completely for 12 weeks. And they also got, and I think this is important, 14 smoking cessation sessions. So brief 10-minute behavioral support sessions on how to quit smoking. So there was a pretty intensive behavioral component as well. The outcomes were smoking abstinence, both biochemically verified with exhaled carbon monoxide level and by self-report. And they looked at continuous smoking abstinence during the last 4 weeks of both the 6 and 12-week treatment group. And then from the end of treatment to 24 weeks, so after people stopped the medication, did they manage to maintain smoking abstinence? They also looked at cravings and adverse effects, because this was an FDA approval study. So data was pretty clear. The cytisinicline was effective for smoking cessation in both groups, both 6 weeks and 12 weeks, and the benefits endured through 24 weeks. It mitigated the cravings, it mitigated nicotine withdrawal, there were very few adverse effects, and the results were both clinically and statistically significant. The adverse effects were pretty minimal, so it really did work. The number needed to treat for full smoking cessation at 12 weeks was 4.7 people compared to placebo. So that's pretty good. If you want to look at some absolute numbers, smoking abstinence, at 12 weeks in the group who got cytisinicline for 12 weeks was 30%. So that's pretty good. And then if you look at did it last all the way to week 24, about 20% of people in that 12-week group were still abstinent at 24 weeks. So some people went back to smoking, but 20% had still quit smoking. So now what I say to people who want to quit and they've tried everything and nothing's worked, I can say, hey, there's something new that's coming on the market. I would never encourage anybody to order illegal non-FDA approved medications online, but were someone to want to order it online, they could use this new dosing, which is a lot easier. And who knows how much it will cost when it's finally FDA approved, but it was definitely effective, and I will be recommending it to people when it comes out. How about you, John? Will you be recommending this to people?
I think I'm always welcome another tool for tobacco cessation, right?
Yeah. Right. I mean, not exciting, but the most deadly of all the addictions we treat is tobacco.
It's interesting this has been around for so long. It's like just coming here.
Well, I think there just wasn't any money in it. And I do think the traditional dosing is it's not long enough to be effective, and it's really awkward. And so they've really simplified its use, and of course will increase the price accordingly. We have to see, we did a poll, I think, when we presented this live, whenever it was, about how much it's going to cost. And now I forget who voted what, but, I'll have to look back on my notes and see who wins.
Get the recording, yeah.
Yeah.
So last case also about smoking cessation. So this is a 38-year-old non-binary adult who presents to established care after a recent relapse of opioid use. Their past medical history includes PTSD, major depressive disorder, ADHD, fibromyalgia, opioid use disorder, and tobacco use disorder. They report smoking about 2 packs of cigarettes daily for the past 20 years. The patient had been opioid-free for 6 years prior to relapsing 1 month ago and currently uses 4 to 5 bags of fentanyl daily. They are motivated to stop opioid use and are interested in restarting buprenorphine for stabilization. The patient is not interested in smoking cessation at this time, considering a low health priority that they may revisit in the future. And like what I used to think is one thing at a time, the opioid use disorder is the most immediate risk and needs to be stabilized first. Tobacco use can wait. It's not a priority for the patient and isn't affecting their current concern or complaint whatsoever. What about you? When you get people coming in that, I feel like when you take a substance use history, I think people are often kind of surprised when I ask about tobacco after that was like often not something that was discussed. What do you do when you talk to patients about this?
Well, of course, if someone doesn't want to quit, there's not a lot we can do at that time. But I just try to reframe it as actually a top health priority and one of the most important things they can do for their health. And so I don't say like, oh, well, it's the lesser of two evils, or you did great on everything else, so this is fine just to hang on to this one habit. I try to just tell people, look, I'll help you with any way I can because this is the most dangerous thing you're doing for your health.
Yeah, I think I've kind of had a way of like, I've learned like these soft confrontations as a primary care physician where like, you're like, well, if that's how you feel, but it is more likely to kill you than the opioid use, and then just keep going forward with the conversation. So I feel like sometimes if you say nothing, I think patients, sometimes people feel like you validated their statement that it's not a health concern. So I feel like you kind of say something soft, passive, and that you'll work with them, but kind of just letting them know that there is an issue there as well. So, do you have something to say?
Oh yeah, no, just same. I even people who don't want to quit, I acknowledge they don't want to quit, but I don't acknowledge that that's okay. I don't agree through silence, like you said.
But then I read this article. It's called Cigarette Smoking During Recovery from Substance Use Disorder from JAMA Psychiatry 2025. So the clinical question is, do changes in cigarette smoking predict substance use disorder recovery over time among adults with a history of substance use disorder? So this was a longitudinal cohort study of 2,652 U.S. adults from the PATH study from 2013 to 2018 with annual assessments across 4 waves looking at the effect of within-person change in smoking status and substance use disorder recovery. Primary outcomes were substance use disorder recovery and looked at sustained remission versus current symptoms, smoking status as well. And I really like the fact that like the way they did this was that people kind of served as their own control. They looked at change in status amongst users as well. And so really what came back here is that quitting smoking actually did have a strong predictive effect here. So when you look at kind of quitting smoking, going from a current to a former smoker, that did increase your odds of successful substance use disorder recovery and an odds ratio of 1.3, and that was statistically significant. I was very optimistic to see that if you did nothing over time, substance use disorder recovers in many patients with time alone. So like it is something where we do help people along, but time is a big predictor and people's lives change. I'm also happy to see that improving mental health outcomes or improved mental health also improve recovery over time, regardless of smoking status. Although I thought it was interesting, when you look at the odds ratio strength, quitting smoking outperformed time and improvement of mental health in terms of significance of sustained substance use. So it actually was more important than those other 2 domains, which we often really kind of put as pillars of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Education, medical visits, ED visits, and smoking cessation medications were not associated with recovery here. Were you surprised by this at all?
Well, I am surprised that the smoking cessation has that much of a bigger effect than some of these other parts of recovery. But, we had read an essay that was sent to us by a colleague about smoking in recovery. And then, there's this mindset shift among people that if you're still smoking, you're actually not in recovery. You're still using an addictive, dangerous drug. And so people who are very strong in their recovery that's when they might quit smoking. But it's just so terrible for you. It's terrible for everything. And if you can quit smoking, it helps so many other aspects of your life. I'm sure it would help your recovery.
Yeah. I can't tell whether it's the smoking itself or whether or not that when you look at stuff like this, does it just select for people that have a different, like, are they in a different place when they're coming to you about that they want to kind of do a complete health overhaul? Like it's like your most motivated subgroup. I don't know. So it's kind of interesting. Although I think my poor recovery support that's with me, Kathy, I think she's like so tired of me talking about smoking cessation. I think she like has heard this spiel so many times, and I don't know, like I feel like I know my patients in my recovery clinics. I think I know them the best out of all my patients. I spend a lot of time with them, right? The first year alone, they probably come in 18, 20 times to see me. That's not including acute health concerns. The ones I've been taking care of for like 9 years, I mean, I probably have had 50, 60 visits with them over, 9 years. So we have a pretty strong relationship. And, after the initial recovery, I do their other medical conditions, their preventive care. But I feel like sometimes I run out of things to offer them. And I feel like that they got to get some sort of health, like
Yeah,
some bang for their buck for coming to see me besides just a medication refill. So sometimes that's all we're left to talk about.
you got to add some value.
Yeah, I mean, they're paying that copay, right? That $5 copay. Got to make it worth something.
Well, the other thing, I mean, it kind of hurts my heart seeing how impoverished a lot of my people are and how much they struggle. And then they are smoking, and cigarettes are so expensive. Like they're just all of this money that could go to other things that they really need go to tobacco. And then it like ruins their health at the same time. And to me, it's actually, I don't know. I've been feeling particularly negative about tobacco recently. I feel like it's an evil product. And, I try to treat everybody with respect and understanding, but I can't pretend that it's a benign habit. And I really do push on my patients to consider quitting. And if not quitting, at least cutting back.
Yeah. So, like, what I say now for these cases is what I hear to the patients that you're most concerned about is the opioid use and stabilization. And if you're in active withdrawal, I kind of do agree. That still kind of is the withdrawal phase, the stabilization phase. That probably is the start before we dig into ways to mitigate their smoking. So I'll tell them that we're going to start this medication. We're going to come up with a plan for stabilization. But I do care about your overall health. And your relationship with tobacco is going to affect your health in the long run, but also possibly your recovery. So at a future visit, when we're not in active withdrawal and we have kind of the opioid use a little more stabilized, we're going to develop a plan for that as well. And it works sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a process. But, if people know that you care about them and you're not just like an uptight nag, then I think even if they don't agree with you, they don't take it badly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, great. So 8 awesome articles that have changed how we do things, and we really hope that they will change how you do things as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Addiction Medicine Journal Club. We really do feel the best part of any journal club is the conversation. We want to hear what you have to say. If any of these articles have changed your practice or might change your practice in the future, we want to know about it. You can comment on social media. You can join our Facebook group. You can comment directly on Spotify. The links are in the show notes. Our original theme music was composed and performed by Benjamin Kennedy. Audio editing by Michael Bonanno. CME support from MyCares. Produced by Dr. Patrick Beeman and Ars Longa Media. Addiction Medicine Journal Club is intended for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. The views expressed here are our own and do not necessarily reflect those of our employers or the authors of the articles we review. All patient information has been modified to protect their identities. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Have a great day.
Think Verizon is expensive? Think again. Anyone can bring their AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. So bring us your bill. Walk in, run in, pogo stick in, teleport if you can. Ride on the back of a rollerblading yak or fly in on the wings of a majestic falcon. Any way you can, bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal on the best network. Based on Root Metrics Best Overall Mobile Network Performance U.S. Second Half 2025. All rights reserved. Must provide very recent postpaid consumer mobile bill in the name of the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.